Hi, the first supplement food we're going to make is sauerkraut, which is fermented cabbage. Sauerkraut is simple to make, inexpensive, and incredibly nutritious. Homemade sauerkraut contains probiotics, which are beneficial bacteria that act as the first line of defense against toxins and harmful bacteria. Research has reported that one serving may contain up to 28 distinctive bacterial strains. The type of bacteria that populate your gut can have a strong influence on your immune system. The probiotics found in sauerkraut may help improve the balance of your gut bacteria and also help keep your gut lining healthy. In addition to a source of probiotics, sauerkraut is rich in vitamin C, vitamin K2, and iron, which contribute to a healthy immune system. You can find sauerkraut easily in most supermarkets, but not all types you come across will be the same. And it has probably been pasteurized, a process that kills the good bacteria, only leaving you with the taste. Eating sauerkraut may improve your digestion, reduce your risk of certain diseases, as well as help strengthen your immune system. To reap the greatest benefits, try eating sauerkraut with every meal as a side. I particularly like it with jack potatoes, cold meat and salad. Start with just a teaspoon and build up slowly to 2 to 3 tablespoons per meal. So to make the sauerkraut, we need cabbages. Now, I have a 3-litre preserving Kilner jar here, and generally to fill that jar I need 4 cabbages, and I usually use 2 white and 2 red. But currently I'm struggling to get hold of red cabbages, so I just have 3 large white cabbages and half a red cabbage. I also have some weights. Now, I bought these weights online and they go with the Kilner jar. But to be honest, you can use any sort of weights, maybe a bag full of marbles or those pebbles you sometimes get for flower arranging, the glass pebbles. Or you could even scrub and disinfect a stone from the garden. Now to cut the cabbage. Before you cut all the cabbage, peel back maybe 2 or 3 large leaves from the outer edge, and we'll be using this later to weigh down the cabbage. I find the best way to cut the cabbage is to use a food processor. I cut the cabbage into sections that will fit in the slot, but you can use a sharp knife or even a grater. Once I'd cut all the cabbage and mixed it all together, I ended up with 2 large bowls. So the next stage to making the sauerkraut is to add some salt, preferably sea salt. To calculate the amount of salt used, you need to weigh the cabbage in each bowl, and in this case it was 1.5 kilos, so that's 1,500 grams. So times 1,500 by 0.2. Just use the calculator on your phone, and the answer in this case is 30 grams of salt. So I mixed 30 grams of salt into each of the 2 bowls. Once you've weighed out the salt, mix it in and massage it well into the cabbage for 3 or 4 minutes. You can then leave it for maybe half an hour and go back to it and massage it again. Maybe do this 3 or 4 times over the afternoon or the morning, and what you will end up with is about half the volume of cabbage you had before, but it will be limp and soggy, and there'll be a lot of liquid in the bottom of the bowl. Now you probably can put the whole lot into one bowl and give it a final mix. What I usually do now is stand my empty jar in the empty bowl, because the next stage is a bit messy. Slowly pick up the cabbage using your hands and pack it into the jar, pressing down all the time. Eventually you will find that as you press down, the liquid will rise up over the cabbage and completely cover it. Once you have filled your jar within 2 to 3 inches of the top, cover the surface with the reserved cabbage leaves. Now you can place your chosen weight on top of the large cabbage leaves, pressing down so the water completely covers everything. Once you have secured the weights and the cabbage below the waterline, just cover with a piece of cling film. This will allow the lactic acid to build up amongst the cabbage, fermenting it, and also create this space above the cabbage with gases that inhibit the microorganisms to grow. And leave on the side in your kitchen, not in the fridge or in direct sunlight, for 2 to 6 weeks. After a couple of days, you may notice that the liquid is increasing and starting to reach the top of the jar. What I tend to do now is to tip off the excess before it overflows the jar, put it into a smaller jar and put it in the fridge. Because over the next week you will probably find the liquid level drops below the cabbage, and so you've got some extra liquid to top it back up with. The jar can now be left on the side for up to 6 weeks. During that time you will notice that the cling film starts to bulge, and this is just an excess of gas. The best way to relieve it is just to ease one corner up and press down with the palm of your hand and burp the jar. Try not to let any air in, because that might let in some microorganisms which are not desirable, and they may grow on the top of your cabbage and make it mouldy. The jar of sauerkraut has now stood for 3 or 4 weeks and could be used, or you could leave it a bit longer to 6 weeks for a fuller flavour and a more beneficial effect. As you notice, it's gone rather a nice pink colour. We started out with red cabbage and white cabbage, and despite not stirring the jar at all, the colour has migrated from the red to the white. This final shot shows 2 batches I made before. The one on the left is half red, half white cabbage, and the one on the right is just white cabbage. So clearly the pink colour is achieved with just using a small amount of red cabbage.